And the bartender says, "Why the big pause? Get it?" What a bonehead. Today, I'm here to go over some of the major bones with you, pointing them out on our friend here so that you can label them and start to learn them. There are some that we won't go over the specifics, though we'll go over some of the general names for groups of bones. So let's get going. We're going to start with the bones of the head. Now, you may have learned previously that this is the skull, but really it's made of multiple bones. We'll go over the main ones on the outside of the skull, but not on the inside. The bones of the skull, you can see, are connected here in joints. These are technically joints because it's where two bones meet, and they're called sutures. And where these sutures end would be where that specific bone is. So starting here with the forehead is the frontal bone. Then here, the bridge of the nose is the nasal bone. Then from here to here to here, you can see these are the zygomatic bones, the cheekbones. The front of the face, these are the maxilla bones. And then the jaw bone is the mandible. The teeth are not technically bones, they're made of a different substance, though they are part of the skeletal system. From a side view, here you can see that same part of the cheekbone, the zygomatic. This small part here, in here, is called the sphenoid. This here, with a hole for the ear, is the temporal bone. This part here, it has a split down the middle, but it comes around here, is the parietal. And in the back is the occipital bone. We'll next cover the vertebral column, the vertebrae, the sacrum, and the coccyx. So here you can see there are 7 vertebrae here. These are called cervical vertebrae. These pieces of rubber here that are color-coded are where blood vessels and nerves would be exiting the spinal column. After the first 7 are 12 vertebrae that are all connected to ribs. And if they're connected to ribs, then they are thoracic vertebrae. And so each of the 12 thoracic vertebrae is connected to a pair of ribs. You have your 12 thoracic vertebrae, with the last one being here. And then you have 5 lumbar vertebrae, lumbar being the lower back. So again, here are the 5 lumbar vertebrae. And then this section is a few fused vertebrae that is called the sacrum. And below that, the tailbone, the coccyx. On either side of the sacrum are these pelvic bones. The sacrum and the pelvic bones together are called the pelvic girdle. You can tell, based on a skeleton, if the specimen was male or female in a few different ways. One of the most straightforward is the angle of the pelvic bones. This is called a male angle for the pelvic bones, and this is considered to be a female angle for the pelvic bones. So we can see the pelvic bones here. This appears to be a male skeleton because it has a male angle. If they were wider, then it would be a female skeleton, providing extra room for the birth canal. Now here's a bone that is not really connected to any other bones. It is in this skeleton just so that it stays put, but it's here. It's what your tongue would connect to, and it's what your voice box connects to. It's called the hyoid bone. Unlike other bones, it does not connect directly to other bones, but is embedded in soft tissue. Here we have the sternum with its 3 parts, the head or manubrium, the body of the sternum, and the xiphoid process, not technically a bone, but mostly made of cartilage. Connecting to the thoracic vertebrae in the back and the sternum in the front are the ribs. There are 12 pairs of ribs. Of the 12 ribs, 7 are considered true ribs, 5 are considered false ribs, and 2 of those 5 are considered floating. To be a true rib, you need to go all the way from a vertebra to the sternum. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 true ribs that connect to the sternum. The 5 that are false ribs are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the 2 that are considered floating ribs are these bottom 2 because they do not connect to the sternum at all. Supporting the arm are these bones here, the scapula or shoulder blade, and the clavicle, the collarbone. In the arm, we have first the humerus, then the radius, and the ulna. The radius is the one that's on the thumb side, and the ulna is the one that's on the pinky side. In the hand, you have wrist bones called carpals. You have metacarpals, these would be in the hand. And then your fingers, you have 3 phalanges per finger. In the thumb, only 2. Notice that the carpals here make a curved shape. There are nerves and tendons that run through here, and there are ligaments that connect here to here. When those nerves and tendons become inflamed, that's called carpal tunnel syndrome. So this is a tunnel that nerves and tendons run through called the carpal tunnel. And now for the leg, we already had the pelvic bones where the femur, the thigh bone, connects. Here's the patella, the kneecap. It also is a bone similar to the hyoid that is not directly touching other bones, but is instead embedded in soft tissues. In the lower leg, there's this, the tibia, the larger of the 2 bones. This is your shin, and the fibula. In the foot, you have tarsals and metatarsals, and then each toe has phalanges, with most of the toes having 3 phalanges, but the big toe, similar to the thumb, having only 2. I hope all that was clear enough that you could see everything and the bones that you need to label. Now know that there were some bones that were left out, some of the internal ones in the skull. The carpals all have specific names, and the tarsals all have specific names. The phalanges have specific names, but they are referred to as first, second, and third phalange, or phalanx is the singular. But I hope this has been a good general overview. Thanks for watching.
Yeah!